You must understand something crucial. Success does not care. It has no ears for your complaints, no heart for your struggle, and certainly no sympathy for your delays. The world won't hand you excellence because you wish for it. It will hand you exactly what you earn. And what you earn is a reflection of what you become. That is why this talk may disturb you or wake you. Because in a world where everyone seeks comfort, applause, and shortcuts, I want you to ask yourself a brutal question. What have I done today that hurt a little but grew me a lot? The uncomfortable truth is this. Discipline is the only real freedom you'll ever have. Without it, you are a slave to moods, laziness, impulses, and distractions. With it, you become dangerous to failure itself. You begin to shape your destiny like a sculptor shaping stone, bit by bit, strike by strike, until the raw becomes refined. Don't expect success to understand your weaknesses. It won't pause to console you when you feel tired. It won't lower its standards because you had a hard day. Success is like nature. It rewards only the ones who adapt, endure, and move forward regardless. The soft voice inside you that whispers, "Take a break. You've done enough. You're too tired today." That voice is your greatest enemy disguised as your closest friend. The path of mastery demands that you silence it. True power comes from repetition, in the absence of motivation. When it's cold, you still train. When no one applauds, you still show up. When the world distracts you with noise, you return to silence and build. That's discipline. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not about morning routines or motivational quotes. It's about doing what you said you'd do long after the mood has left. It's about honoring your potential more than your preferences. And it's the only way to earn respect, not from others, but from the person in the mirror. Look at the lives of those who inspire you. Not their success, but their consistency, their rituals, their boundaries, their refusal to be average. You admire them not because they're lucky, but because they are disciplined enough to stay on the path while others wandered. Here's the raw, unfiltered truth. If you don't discipline yourself, life will do it for you. And life is a much harsher teacher. Discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means progress. It means doing what matters, even when it's boring. It means choosing your future over your feelings, your legacy over your laziness. Because at the end of it all, when your story is told, you will either be remembered as someone who waited for the perfect moment, the moment when he created it through relentless self-mastery. The choice is yours. But remember, success has no sympathy for the undisciplined. Success is ruthless. It rewards discipline, not excuses. This is not a poetic phrase meant to sound profound. It's a reality most people willfully ignore because it's uncomfortable. Success doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you come from a broken home, or if you didn't get enough sleep, or if you're going through something difficult. It doesn't care about your feelings. It has no emotion, no pity, and certainly no patience. It is a mirror that only reflects effort, not intention, and the only currency it accepts is discipline. People often confuse discipline with punishment, but that's not what it is. Discipline is alignment. It's the art of choosing what you want most over what you want now. That choice, repeated day after day, is the very thing that separates those who wish from those who achieve. Excuses are seductive. They sound reasonable. They even make us feel better for a moment. But every excuse is a tiny theft of potential, a small, silent betrayal of your future. You must see excuses for what they truly are, illusions, justifications that feel like shields, but operate like shekels. I'm not motivated today. I'll start tomorrow. I'm too busy. It's not the right time. These are not truths. These are lies dressed in logic. And success doesn't listen to lies. It listens to results. The moment you understand that success is indifferent, everything changes. You stop expecting it to feel fair. You stop expecting it to show up because you had a hard week. You stop waiting for external validation. You realize that the only way forward is internal governance, discipline. Not the kind you perform when people are watching, but the kind you practice in silence, alone, without praise, without recognition, just you, your goals, and the uncomfortable work that bridges the two. Think about this. Every extraordinary person you admire, every athlete, artist, thinker, creator, leader, they didn't get there on the back of talent alone. They got there because they were disciplined. When it was raining, they trained. When it was lonely, they worked. When they failed, they got back up. Not because they felt good, but because their discipline made it non-negotiable. Discipline gives you the edge no one can take. It is immune to the economy, to other people's opinions, to your changing moods. It is a kind of internal armor. With it, you become dangerous. Not to others, but to doubt, to fear, to limitation. You start to become someone who does what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. And that's when success starts to respond, not with applause, not with sympathy, but with progress, quiet, incremental, undeniable progress. Your health improves, your skills sharpen, your focus deepens, your confidence rises, not because someone told you you're great, but because you've earned your own respect. That's the reward. That's what success gives back. Not gifts, but growth. Not favors, but feedback. And if your discipline is strong enough, that feedback becomes your fuel. You start living on a different frequency, where average is no longer acceptable and excuses have no room. When you catch yourself hesitating, procrastinating, shrinking back into comfort, remember this truth. Success is ruthless. It will not slow down for you. It will not bend its standards to accommodate your habits. It will pass you by and go to the next person who decided that discipline mattered more than mood. You don't get what you want. You get what you're committed to. And commitment, real commitment, always walks hand in hand with discipline. That's why, if you truly want to rise, if you want to achieve anything meaningful, you must understand that excuses are your enemy and discipline is your sword. Wield it daily, because success has no sympathy. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in motion. Too often, people associate discipline with restriction. They see it as a rigid, harsh system that takes the joy out of life. But that's only because they don't understand what discipline truly is. Real discipline doesn't come from self-hatred. It's not about shaming yourself into action or denying yourself happiness. It's about honoring yourself enough to follow through on what you said you would do. It is a daily expression of self-respect. When you wake up early to pursue your goals, even when you'd rather stay in bed, that's not cruelty. It's commitment. when you say no to the distractions that pull you away from your path. That's not denial. Think of it this way. You discipline the things you care about. A sculptor disciplines the stone not because they hate it, but because they see the masterpiece hidden inside. A gardener disciplines the soil not because they wish to control nature, but because they desire to nurture growth. Discipline, then, is a creative act. It's not about suppressing your life. It's about shaping it. When you truly respect yourself, you don't allow yourself to drift aimlessly. You don't hand over your time, energy, or focus to just anything. You set boundaries. You make commitments. You create systems that support your highest values. That's discipline. And it stems from the belief that you are worthy of more than chaos, more than randomness, more than being pulled in every direction by your impulses. This is where most people get it wrong. They think freedom is doing whatever you feel like, whenever you feel like it. But that kind of freedom quickly turns into enslavement. Enslavement to moods, to habits, to circumstances. True freedom is not the absence of structure, it is the presence of intentional structure. It is knowing that your day has a purpose, your actions have meaning, and your direction is clear. That kind of life doesn't happen by chance. It happens by design. And discipline is the design tool. It's not about being robotic or removing all spontaneity. It's about choosing a path that reflects who you are at your highest, and then walking that path even when the lower version of you tries to take over. That's not punishment. That's protection. Protection of your vision, your values, your potential. You see, there will always be days when you don't feel like doing the hard thing. Days when you'd rather scroll your phone, skip the workout, avoid the responsibility. And on those days, discipline is the voice that says no. We rise. Not because we have to, but because we get to. Because we respect the person we are becoming too much to let comfort win. And that is where self-respect shows itself. Not in words, not in affirmations, but in action. Anyone can talk about goals. Anyone can say they value growth, but only the disciplined back it up. Only they show up again and again, quietly building a life they don't need to escape from, quietly proving that they matter, not to the world, but to themselves. That's the beauty of discipline. It's not loud, it doesn't scream for attention, but it speaks clearly. It says, I am worthy of effort. I am capable of consistency. I am not here to waste my days hoping for miracles. I am here to become one. The next time discipline feels hard, remember this. It's not a burden. It's not a punishment. It is a form of love. The most honest, difficult, and powerful love you can offer yourself. A love that says, I won't betray my future for the comfort of now. That is not restriction. That is liberation. And that is what true self-respect looks like in motion. Comfort is seductive, but it is the graveyard of progress. It whispers to you softly, it tells you to take it easy, to relax a little longer, to wait until the moment feels right. Comfort doesn't come crashing in like a storm. It arrives like a warm blanket on a cold morning, convincing you that staying where you are is safer, easier, more pleasant than venturing out into the unknown. But while comfort feels good in the moment, it slowly robs you of growth, passion, and the very fire that fuels change. Progress doesn't live in comfort. It never has. Every meaningful transformation, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, has been born from discomfort, from stepping into territory that feels uncertain, difficult, even painful. because discomfort is the signal that something new is happening. It means you're stretching, reaching beyond your current limits, breaking old patterns to create space for something greater. Comfort, on the other hand, is the place where dreams go to die. It is the space where you convince yourself that good enough is enough, that tomorrow is a better time to begin, that you'll chase your goals when things settle down. But the truth is, comfort delays purpose. And that delay becomes dangerous when repeated daily. One skipped effort becomes two. One postponed task becomes a habit. And slowly, without even realizing it, you settle for a life that is far smaller than what you are capable of. It's not that comfort is evil, it's that it's deceptive. It sells you peace but delivers stagnation. It sells you security but hides the cost, your potential. What makes comfort so powerful is that it feels right. It feels natural to rest, to avoid risk, to stay where things are predictable. But what feels natural isn't always what leads to growth. In fact, the most important things you ever do will often feel unnatural at first. Waking up early, saying no to distractions, pushing through exhaustion, making sacrifices, none of that feels good in the beginning, but it becomes meaningful with repetition. Discipline is the antidote to comfort, not because it removes ease, but because it redirects it. Discipline doesn't tell you never to rest, it tells you when to rest. It gives rest meaning because it was earned, not stolen. You committed to it, and the progress matters more than pleasure, not bringing it. You condition your mind to build an indifferent matter. You committed to it, exceeded your state. You're committed this potential, burn it, right, desire, any adjustment, you keep making. You keep this temper that is committed. Those who live inside comfort zones rarely realize they've stopped growing until life shakes them. They wake up one day feeling unfulfilled, disconnected, or behind. Not because life was unfair, but because they chose what felt good instead of what was good for them. Every day you avoid discomfort. You reinforce the idea that growth is optional. But it's not. Growth is essential. And the uncomfortable path is the only one that leads to it. The strongest people you admire, the creators, the innovators, the warriors, they didn't rise from comfort. They were forged in struggle, shaped by setbacks, and strengthened through discomfort. They kept going when it was hard. They chose purpose over pleasure. And they learned through experience that temporary discomfort is a small price to pay for long-term strength. The next time comfort invites you to stay where you are, to settle, to avoid the stretch, remember what's at stake: your future, your peace, your power. Every time you push against comfort, even slightly, you reclaim control. You tell the world, I'm not here to drift, I'm here to evolve. And evolution is never comfortable, but it is always worth it. No one is coming to save you. You are your own rescue plan. This is a hard truth, but one you must fully embrace if you ever wish to take control of your life. Waiting for someone to notice your struggle, to give you a chance, to lift you out of your pain, this waiting becomes a prison, a quiet, invisible trap that delays your progress and disempowers your mind. the longer you believe that someone or something is going to fix your life for you, the longer you stay stuck exactly where you are. There's no magical moment when someone knocks on your door and says, "Here's the life you dreamed of." That moment doesn't exist. Life doesn't give handouts to the hopeful. It responds to those who take responsibility, who get tired of their own excuses, who decide that they're no longer waiting for the right time, or the right people, or the right mood to change things. They change things because they must. You may think you need a mentor, a perfect opportunity, or some external validation before you can begin. But the truth is, all transformation starts internally. What you need most is not someone to push you. It's you finally pushing yourself. You're not weak because you've struggled. You're not broken because you feel lost. But you are responsible for what happens next. And that realization, though heavy, is the most empowering thing you can ever understand. No one knows your pain like you do. No one understands your dreams with the clarity you do. No one feels your hunger, your potential, your frustration, your fire like you do. So why would anyone else be better suited to rescue you? Why would you hand your future over to someone else's hands when those hands may never reach for you? This world is full of noise, promises, programs, advice, systems. And while some of it may be helpful, none of it can replace self-ownership. You can spend your life searching for answers, or you can become the answer. And that shift, that moment where you say, "I'll build it from scratch if I have to," that's when your life begins to move. You don't need to be perfect to rescue yourself. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to have it all figured out. What you need is a decision that your future is worth more than your fears. A decision to stop blaming others, stop waiting for better luck, stop hoping for miracles, and to start becoming the miracle. That decision is your rescue plan. Yes, it will be hard. There will be days when you question everything, days when it feels easier to go back to sleep, to numb out, to escape through comfort or distraction. But those are the days that matter most. Those are the days where you either become your own hero or stay your own hostage. And stay your own. People will come and go. Some will help you, many will hurt you. But none of them can live your life for you. No one can fight your battles the way you can. No one can carry your burden with the same strength you can develop by carrying it yourself. That's not loneliness, it's ownership. And ownership creates power. The moment you stop expecting the world to fix you, you start fixing yourself. And that is when everything changes. You eat better, not because someone told you to, but because your body deserves it. You study, you learn, you grow, not because someone gave you a deadline, but because your future requires it. You train your mind, your habits, your soul, not for applause, but because you finally realize you're worth the effort. Stayed up, not later, not next week, but now. Not for anyone else, but for you. Speak to yourself not as a victim of your circumstances, but as the builder of a new reality. Say to yourself, "I don't need saving, I need to start." And then take one step. One honest, imperfect, relentless step toward your becoming. Because no one is coming but you. You've always had what it takes to rescue yourself. Every day you choose the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. There is no escaping pain. That's one of the most misunderstood truths about life. People often seek comfort as a way to avoid pain. But what they don't realize is that in doing so, they are trading one kind of pain for another, except the pain they choose through avoidance is the one that lingers longer and cuts deeper. Discipline hurts now, regret hurts forever. That's the trade-off. The pain of discipline is sharp, direct, and temporary. It's the sting of waking up early when your body wants to sleep. The ache in your muscles after pushing yourself. The mental friction of staying focused when distractions pull at you. It's uncomfortable, it's demanding, it requires you to sacrifice ease, delay gratification, and act with intention when laziness would be simpler. But this pain is honest. It's the pain that builds strength, builds clarity, builds character, and it always leaves behind a reward. The pain of regret, on the other hand, is quiet at first. It doesn't strike with force. It creeps in, slowly, unnoticed. It arrives when you realize time has passed, and you've stayed in the same place. It grows when you see others move forward while you stood still. It explodes when opportunity knocks and you're unprepared to answer. That pain, it haunts, because it's rooted in what could have been. It's born from potential wasted, chances ignored, days misused, and that's the reality we often try to ignore. Every day, every moment is a choice between those two. Wake up and push through the hard things now, or delay and let them return later as regret. Take care of your health today through disciplined habits, or meet the pain of illness and limitation down the road. Build your dreams now through consistency, or live with the ache of watching others live the life you wanted while you wonder what went wrong. People often say, it's too hard to be disciplined, and yes, it is. But it's far harder to look back years from now, knowing you had the time, the chance, the ability, and you let it slip because it was easier to do nothing. Discipline is difficult, but regret is brutal. Discipline tests your strength. Regret reveals your weakness. And what's most tragic is that regret never arrives all at once. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It says things like, what if I had just tried? Or maybe I could have been more. Or why didn't I start sooner? Those are the thoughts that torture the mind and bruise the spirit. They can't be undone. You can't go back and relive those days. All you're left with is the weight of what you didn't do. That's why discipline, despite its difficulty, is a gift. It is the higher road, the uncomfortable road, but it is the one that leads to self-respect, to freedom, to the quiet confidence of knowing you gave life everything you had. Discipline doesn't mean perfection. It means trying again and again, showing up even when it's hard, pushing through resistance because your vision is bigger than your mood. The question isn't whether pain is part of the process. It is. The question is which pain you're willing to carry. One makes you stronger, wiser, and closer to your purpose. The other leaves you stuck in a loop of regret, wishing you had chosen differently. The next time you are tempted to skip the workout and delay the project, avoid the difficult conversation, or make yet another excuse, pause. Ask yourself, which pain am I choosing right now? The moment you become aware, you take your power back. Because in the end, the life you build is not made in grand moments. It's made in these small daily decisions, these invisible choices between temporary hardship and lifelong regret. And those who choose the pain of discipline over and over again, they live a life that others envy, not because they were lucky, but because they were willing to suffer now so they wouldn't have to suffer later. Success does not care how you feel. It only responds to action. This is one of the most liberating and brutal truths you can internalize. For most people, their days are dictated by how they feel. Now, if they feel tired, they rest. If they feel unmotivated, they stall. If they feel uninspired, they wait. Their emotions hold the steering wheel of their lives. And while emotions are real, they are not reliable guides for success. Because success doesn't wait for your mood to catch up. It only notices what you do. There's an illusion that somehow your feelings must align perfectly before you act. That you need to feel motivated, energized, or confident before you start the task, before you show up, before you commit. But this is how people waste months, years even, waiting for a perfect emotional state that never consistently arrives. The truth is, you don't need to feel ready, you just need to act. You see, success is indifferent. It doesn't care that you're tired. It doesn't care that you're afraid. It doesn't care that you had a rough week. It doesn't care that things are unfair. It doesn't show compassion. It doesn't hand out rewards based on how hard your life has been. It responds only to effort, to decisions, to movement. Whether you are laughing or crying, drained or determined, it only tracks one thing. Did you show up and do the work? And this is where discipline becomes more important than inspiration. Because if you only move when you're inspired, you'll barely move at all. But if you learn to move even when you're uninspired, uncomfortable, and unsure, you become unstoppable. Your consistency becomes a force because now your behavior is not dictated by your feelings, it's dictated by your commitment. Ask yourself, how many times have you skipped something important simply because you didn't feel like it? How many opportunities have slipped away, not because you lacked ability, but because you let your mood control your movement? The mood using action to shape those feelings. Then, the more important the feeling is, this language is where most people fail. Let your mood control your movement. This is where most people fail. Ironically, the feelings you crave, confidence, motivation, pride, don't come before action, they come after. They are the byproduct of doing what's hard, especially when it's hard. You become confident by doing uncomfortable things. You feel proud because you kept going despite resistance. You get motivated because you built momentum. Waiting to feel good before acting is like waiting to get warm before starting the fire. Success doesn't remember how hard it was for you to begin. It doesn't record your doubts or fears. It only counts the steps you took. That's the quiet truth many people don't want to accept, because it forces them to confront their inaction. But when you accept this truth, you reclaim your power, because now, no matter how you feel, you can move. You don't have to feel like training to train. You don't have to feel like working to work. You don't have to feel like pushing to push. That's the beauty of discipline. It gives you permission to ignore your emotions when they're trying to hold you back. You learn to act your way into better feelings, instead of waiting to feel your way into action. And in time, you'll notice something remarkable. Your emotions begin to align after your actions. You start to feel proud because you followed through. You feel stronger because you acted despite resistance. You feel capable because you prove to yourself that you can do hard things. This is how true confidence is built. Not by waiting to feel good, but by learning that action is always more powerful than emotion. So let this be your reminder. Success doesn't listen to your feelings. It listens to your patterns. It watches how often you show up, how deeply you commit, and how long you keep going despite discomfort. Let others be ruled by their emotions. You, let your actions lead. Let your behavior speak louder than your mood. Because success doesn't care how you feel today. It cares whether you moved anyway. Distractions are cheap. Focus is expensive. And that's why it's rare. We live in a world that thrives on your attention. Everything is designed to pull at it, to steal it, divide it, and scatter it, until you're left exhausted, overwhelmed, and unproductive. Notifications, social media, endless scrolling, shallow conversations, and constant noise. They are always available, always tempting, and always costing you more than you realize. Distractions are cheap because they ask for nothing up front, but what they take in return is everything. Your time, your clarity, your energy, your potential. The truth is, focus has become a superpower. In a time where everyone is multitasking, where few can sit in silence, and even fewer can work deeply for hours without interruption, those who can focus are the ones who rise. Because focus is the doorway to mastery. Nothing great was ever built through divided attention. You cannot write your legacy in fragments. You need full presence, full intention, and full devotion to your craft, your growth, your mission. But most people won't protect their focus. They treat it as something casual, something flexible. They let everyone interrupt them. They let everything distract them. They trade focus for entertainment, trade depth for stimulation. Why? Because distractions are easy, they are comfortable, they are numbing. Focus, on the other hand, demands effort. It demands discomfort. It requires you to say no to others, to noise, to temporary pleasure. And that's why so few people choose it. And that's why so few people choose it. But here's what you must understand. If you don't control your attention, someone else will. Every click, every swipe, every mindless scroll trains your brain to be reactive instead of reflective. You become addicted to stimulation and allergic to stillness. And in that state, you cannot grow, you cannot hear your inner voice. You cannot build anything meaningful because your energy is always elsewhere, scattered across 1,000 meaningless things. Focus is expensive because it requires sacrifice. You have to give up things that feel good but do nothing for you. You have to cut off distractions at the root. You have to train your mind like an athlete trains their body, repetitively, consistently, and with great discipline. You don't become focused by accident. You become focused by design. This means setting boundaries. It means turning your phone off, not just putting it down. It means choosing time alone with your thoughts over constant digital noise. It means being deeply intentional about how you spend each hour of your day. Because every hour distracted is an hour lost. And those hours add up. They form days, then months, then years of missed progress. People often wonder why they aren't successful. They think it's a lack of talent, a lack of resources, a lack of luck. But often it's none of those. It's a lack of focus. They've never given themselves fully to anything long enough to see it through. They jump from one thing to the next, always chasing novelty, always escaping boredom. But progress lives in boredom. Growth lives in repetition. Mastery lives in the grind. When you focus, you reclaim your power. You stop leaking energy. You begin to work with force, not just effort. You enter a state where time stretches, distractions fade, and you become absorbed in the task at hand. This is where breakthroughs happen. This is where your real potential wakes up. But you must protect this state. You must guard it like a treasure, because the world will constantly try to steal it. Every app, every buzz, every unnecessary conversation is a thief. And every time you give in, you are telling the world that your time is not valuable, that your dreams are not urgent, that your future can wait. Decide today that your focus is sacred, that you will no longer give your energy to things that drain you, that you will no longer scatter your attention across things that do not move you forward, because distractions are everywhere. They are cheap, easy, and always available. But focus, that's different. Focus is rare, focus is powerful, and when you learn to wield it, you become unstoppable. The future belongs to those who train themselves when no one is watching. In a world obsessed with visibility, likes, shares, applause, recognition, it's easy to forget that the most important work is often done in silence, not when the cameras are rolling, not when people are cheering you on, but in those quiet moments when it's just you, your goals, and a choice to train, to grow, to improve, even when no one will notice, especially when no one will notice. This is where the real difference is made, not in public displays of effort, but in private acts of discipline. When others sleep in, you rise. When others talk, you build. When others scroll, you study. There's something powerful about knowing you're putting in the work when no one is clapping, when no one is validating you, when no one even knows what you're doing. That is the seed of greatness, planted in the dark long before it breaks through the surface. You see, the future does not belong to the loudest. It does not belong to the most popular. It belongs to the most consistent, the ones who train when it's inconvenient, the ones who improve not for praise, but because they refuse to be average, the ones who don't need an audience to give their best effort. Their reward is not instant gratification, it's long-term transformation. Most people want results, few are willing to earn them in solitude. They want the reward without the repetition. But success doesn't work like that. It demands hours, weeks, years of invisible progress. It requires you to keep showing up with no immediate payoff. And that's where most quit. Not because they're weak, but because they crave attention more than mastery. They want to be seen more than they want to be sharp. But mastery is never loud. It's quiet, boring, repetitive. It's the same drills, the same routines, the same lonely grind that most people avoid because it lacks glamour. But if you look at anyone who's truly great at anything, you'll find that before they ever became visible, they lived in discipline. They trained their minds, their bodies, their habits in obscurity. And that training built a foundation no spotlight could ever give. The future doesn't belong to the person who starts fast. It belongs to the one who stays committed. When motivation fades, when the mood changes, when setbacks hit, who keeps going? Who keeps refining their skills, their mindset, their discipline? That's who wins. Not just today, not just for the season, but for life. If you're training now and it feels like no one cares, good. That means you're doing it for the right reason. That means your drive comes from within. Because the ones who train in silence gain something far more powerful than attention. They gain edge. While others are waiting to be noticed, you're becoming undeniable. And when the moment comes, when the spotlight finally hits, when the opportunity shows up, you won't need to get ready. You'll be ready. Because you've been preparing all along while the world wasn't watching. That's what gives you the advantage. That's what makes you sharp when others are scrambling. You didn't just show up. You arrived with depth, with strength, with readiness. The future is not promised, but it is prepared for. And those who prepare quietly, consistently, relentlessly, are the ones who rise. They don't hope for a breakthrough. They become the breakthrough. Keep training, keep learning, keep building in the shadows. The spotlight may be delayed, but your preparation isn't wasted. It's compounding. And when your time comes, it will be obvious. Not because you demanded attention, but because your preparation made you undeniable. Train now, even if no one sees you. Especially because no one sees you. That's where the future is built. The thread that ties every point together is simple yet relentless. Success is deft to excuses and blind to emotion. It bends only to disciplined action. When you understand that, no one is coming to save you. Comfort turns from sanctuary into quicksand, and you realize you must choose the short-lived sting of discipline over the lifelong ache of regret. Self-respect becomes the fuel that powers early mornings and late nights, while unwavering focus shields your attention from the cheap lure of distraction. What you do when nobody is watching forges the edge that makes you formidable when the spotlight finally arrives. Train yourself in silence, act no matter how you feel, and let each day's deliberate effort carve a future that has sympathy for no one, but undeniable rewards for the few who refuse to wait, waver, or waste their potential.